Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I want to talk about a subject that has come up many times on my Discord server that a lot of people have asked me about, that I've felt myself is a super important and relevant topic, especially when it comes to larger creations, and that is how to avoid scope creep and how to prevent yourself from getting overwhelmed when you are building a large creation, a medium creation, even a small creation can experience these problems. So how to prevent yourself from getting overwhelmed and some tips that will help you. Now, what you see here are two of my newest creations that are yet to hit the workshop, but they will hit the workshop quite soon here. The Alta container ship, or Alta box ship, and beside it is the RSV Atomica. Now, both of these ships have elements that I've worked on with other users and collaborated. In the case of the Alta tank or Alta container ship, it is this crane that I actually had Zino123, who is a moderator on my Discord server, provide me the XML file, and then I took it and adapted it for this creation and changed some things up. And then in the RSV Atomica, user ProKiller57681 actually ended up putting a nuclear power plant, hence the name and hence the Pro logo there. So that is in collaboration with ProKiller, and that is a beautiful ship that is actually able to go a very long distance. And I'd like to thank my Discord team for actually helping develop and test these creations. They spent a lot of hours testing every little bit, taking this ship particularly all the way to the Arctic and making sure that all the little features work. Hopefully it is a smooth release when it comes out. Yes, there may be some little things here and there, but the biggest features are all working. Now if we jump over here to the Atomica and just jump into the engine room here, you'll see that this engine is fully revamped, and here you could see the nuclear reactor is made by ProKiller57681 NL, and it has their logo. And then what is really cool is this ship actually received a revamped dashboard or cockpit or helm. And not only that, it has new features, it has a new top speed, and it goes a very long distance. So you'll see here a dashboard very much reminiscent of what you see in my newer builds, where it kind of looks a little more organized. It's not as kind of scattered all over the place. And again, like I said, it has the nuclear power plant, and it did receive the Martol 25 VTOL in the back. So it does have a VTOL, which is nice. You can go very long distances and very quickly. So both of these ships have their own fun features and were awesome creations to build. But as with both of them, there was times when it took a while and I was wondering, what on earth am I doing? So here are the 5 tips that can hopefully help you moving forward. The first kind of rule that I have, first tip, the first advice is to plan ahead. So when it comes to creations, the one thing that can lead to a ton of scope creep and you getting overwhelmed is if you don't have a good plan. Now this ship, I actually broke that rule. I ended up adding this crane after Zino123 had given me the file, and I actually added this gantry. It did not have all this planned, but as you know, I was proceeding, I kind of just added on to it. So in theory, I had a ton of scope creep here, but I broke that rule, and that rule is plan ahead. So if you know you are building a container ship, you can plan to have a crane. If you know you're planning to build something smaller, even like this sort of flipper boat that has this crane in the rear. So if you know you're planning on doing something like this, you can plan ahead to make sure that you have the crane on hand before you even start the creation. That's one of those things you can build and then kind of be ready with. You can have the shape, you have the general gist of things. A list, honestly, a list on your Stormworks or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever. And when you kind of have a vision of what it is you're trying to do, trust me, it'll be much, much easier, because you'll prevent yourself from kind of thinking as you build. When you're building, it's nice to focus on the actual build itself, and not so great to actually focus on or have to kind of overwhelm yourself with thinking about all the nitty-gritty of regarding the features. You're better off just implementing them. So simply have a list, stick to that list as best as you can. Now, even the best laid plans sometimes have changes required. So there's going to be changes. The best thing you can do is try to kind of work on them and prevent them from taking over. And with that, the best thing I could recommend you do is make a list of your required scope changes or desired scope changes, but prioritize them. So it'll be a list that you then assign priorities to, saying this would be good to have, this is a mandatory one, and kind of go off this. Now, the reason I'm showing you this boat here that I actually developed in conjunction with Sheppy5, who's one of the admins on my Discord server, is the fact that the back here does not have anything. Now, why doesn't it have anything? Well, I've developed a lot of new technology since I started building ships a few years ago, and with that comes an ROV. So I could have thrown in one of my 3 ROVs. I have a small, medium, and large ROV. However, I didn't want to, because I feel that after 3 years, it's honestly time to develop a new ROV. So I'm going to be doing a video on a new ROV, and it will actually go on the back of this vessel, and it's going to be the flagship ROV that I start implementing on all of my ships, whether I go back and do it to old ones, or whether I just put it here first and then kind of moving forward. But realistically, that is something that I found was a must, because this ship is so cool. It's a catamaran. It's my first catamaran, or it's going to be my first released catamaran. I do have another one in development. So because it is important, and because my technology has changed so drastically throughout the years here, I just think that it is super important to try to stick with that. So with that, again, this one needs a catamaran. Now, what it doesn't need, for example, is other things that I'm just going to forego and skip in this creation, because other than the catamaran, or other than the ROV, there's nothing really else that this ship needs. So I'm going to be able to get it out and get it released right after the ROV is ready. I'll also give you a practical example here from the container ship. Now, thanks to my Discord members and everybody testing this creation, it's undergone maybe 5 or 6 major changes, including changing the size of the hatch here, including adjusting the gantry crane, including adjusting this crane. But all of those changes were vital to the operation of the ship, so I knew where to draw the line. And there were some great suggestions to add other technologies and to add all kinds of other things, but I thought that it was not relevant to this creation to get this creation out and released. So I was just telling people, thank you for the suggestion, but there's no need for that here. That would have been, a very big scope creep. It would have been a change, but there were certain things that were required. So I had a list of priorities, and as things kind of progressed, I maybe prioritized some of my B status to A. I pushed it up. For example, this rat, cargo tug, it actually has a brand new revised transmission. Now, previously it had my old style, or my transmission from the Zap truck, meaning you use the arrow keys up and down to control the gear. But now you actually just press space. So space switches it between forward and back, and if you hold it, it puts it in park. So this was a system that was recommended or suggested by some of my Discord team, and I really do like it because it makes kind of this type of machinery so much easier to maneuver and operate, and it's quite realistic in terms of forklifts and stuff like that. So that was one change that I prioritized kind of low from the get-go, but as I continued making this ship, I thought that that would be a very nice thing to have, and I went ahead and did it. But there were some items that I just said, we can't have everything, and I kind of drew the line on that. So that is sort of the practical example here with the container ship. Now, the next item, when you are building a large creation and you have many different systems and all kinds of things in the ship, you may come to a point where you're getting overwhelmed, you're getting kind of drained, and you're thinking that, by you just continuing mindlessly and not really feeling what it is you're doing, that you won't really progress as well. And that's honestly fair enough. I get that sometimes when you're building something large and you've just been staring at it for days. First of all, it's good to take an actual break, go read a book, go outside, go do something. But if it is gaming that you want to do, and if it's Stormworks specifically that you want to do, which sometimes I get that too, that's totally fine, then what I suggest is you go work on other areas of the ship. So sometimes you may come up to kind of something gets super draining and it's just taking too much time and you're really not having it. I suggest you take a break and you go work on other areas of the ship. So for example, in the case of this, now again, I told you I did work on this one with Pro Killer, but if it was the RSV Adria, which is fully my creation, as I was building it, you know, I'd come and hit a roadblock and feel like I'm getting nowhere and kind of just get drained. So at that point, I went and did another section of the ship. You know, I did the decor, or I did something more mindless. I threw on music rather than having to think, which sometimes honestly helps. So I do recommend that you kind of do that type of thing if it is that problem that you're experiencing, which is totally normal, totally fine. You can just start to work on other areas and it's possible that you will get, you know, back into it soon. Now, of course, that's not always possible, and sometimes you just have to go take an actual break. Either go build another creation in Stormworks, or go play a different game, or watch a movie, or sleep, or do homework, or whatever. Sometimes you just get to a point, you hit a wall, and you physically cannot do any more. Now, what I'm showing you here is a bunch of my creations that are designated F, meaning final, but unreleased. So I have a ton of creations that I just developed because I was bored, because I did not want to do any more building that I've been building, and I wanted to just take it and develop something else. Totally mindless, throw on music, and almost like a meditation style build where I don't even think about the other stuff, but rather I go and just kind of create something, and whether or not it ever gets released, that's something else. A lot of these did get released in some form or shape or form, so that's totally good, but they just help me kind of take my mind off the big creation I was doing and end up with something a little different. So I do have a ton of these things that I'm gonna release. I'm planning on releasing them, but I've built them just kind of as a time to just kind of relax and take a break from the other stuff that I've been doing. So that's totally fair. Sometimes I go play other games or do totally other tasks. So those are also valid, you know, ideas that you can take and end up with a place where you are not just constantly working, where it's not feeling like it's a full-time job and all you're doing is, you know, that one same thing, but instead you kind of switch it up a little. And last but not least, maybe this is just kind of like harsh love or something, but tough it out, you know? Tough it out, get it done. Sometimes that's kind of what I need to hear, because everything else is just proceeding and kind of going in a way where I'm thinking like, oh, I can't do it anymore, I'm getting drained, I'm getting tired, and it's like, you know what? You just got to finish it. You just have to finish it, because if you don't finish it, you're going to be stuck with it, and you're going to be stuck with it and you're not going to do anything. It's going to be sitting unfinished. It's going to be bothering you, maybe in the back of your mind. So I found myself needing to just kind of be kicked in the back a couple times and just get it out. So in that case, I tough it out. Now, the key thing about toughing it out is also knowing when to stop. So in addition to that, you'll definitely have a hard stop that tells you enough's enough, because there are times when, you know, you could kind of keep draining yourself and thinking about all the other things that you can add and do, and getting overwhelmed and getting worked up and all that stuff. But I found sometimes you just really need to have that hard stop where you know, as soon as I finish this truck and put this in the back of the plane, I'm done. I'm not gonna change the dashboard. I'm not gonna do anything else. This creation is gonna be done as soon as that is in. So I found myself needing that kind of push, but also needing that type of finalizing point, like one item that once it gets done, it is going to be good to go. So for that, I show you again the catamaran. Once this gets the ROV on the rear here, rear deck, it's done. I may do a little bit of recoloring. I obviously have to put a control console in here, clean up the bedroom a little bit, put some colors and stuff. But this part is done. The systems are done. It is a creation ready to go. There's nothing else I need. I don't have to put a lifeboat on the front. I don't have to add a more advanced sonar. I don't have to add a more advanced radar or any displays. It's going to get its ROV. Boom, done. I'm releasing it. I'm not going to look back. I'm doing that and then moving on to the next creation. That way you guys can end up with as many creations of mine as possible. That way I can sit and listen to music and relax and kind of meditate as I make my creations, and everybody will be happy. So that is those are my 5 items that I kind of recommend you take a look at when you are struggling or stuck or not knowing how to complete a creation, kind of overwhelmed. I recommend you listen to this. Maybe these items help you. Maybe you have your own items that will work. Let me know in the comments if I missed something or what you kind of do to avoid scope creep and to avoid getting overwhelmed. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. I got a lot of creations coming. I got a lot of other videos planned. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone. Thank you for watching.